one creature has captivated the human imagination more than any other. Often seen, rarely photographed, never captured. It is called Yeti, Sasquatch, but most know the creature as Bigfoot.
Broadcasting live from the dark and cold dungeons deep beneath the KLAV studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. Prepare yourselves to be taken away into another dimension as we now have control over your thoughts, fears, and perspective of the unexplained world you dare not speak of. With your hosts, Lindsay Knight and Michael Knight. Ladies and gentlemen, we now open the gates to the paranormal and beyond.
Broadcasting live from the KLAV studios in Las Vegas, Nevada, this is the Paranormal and Beyond. Throughout history, there are many reported sightings, mainly from the region of North America, about a large, hairy, bipedal, humanoid-like creature that some people believe inhabits the forest, creating terror upon those who come in contact with this beast. This creature is known around the world with names such as the Sasquatch, the Yeti, the Abominable Snowman, the Skunk Ape, but most notoriously as Bigfoot. Whether you believe that this is merely just campfire folklore, the thousands of first-hand eyewitness reports would have you thinking otherwise. In a moment, special guest and world-renowned researcher into the Bigfoot legend and one of the investigators on the Animal Planet's new series, Finding Bigfoot, Cliff Berman, will be joining us on the program to share his research plus investigations into the elusive Sasquatch. So get ready to go on a Bigfoot quest with Cliff when we return right here on the Talk of Las Vegas, KLAV 1230 AM.
Your ticket to the unknown is at KnightsParanormalResearchSociety.com. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, hauntings, mysterious places, and more can be found at KnightsParanormalResearchSociety.com. Knights with a K, ParanormalResearchSociety.com. Based out of Las Vegas, Nevada, Knights Paranormal Research Society is owned and operated by the renowned brother and sister team of Michael and Lindsay Knight. Seeing is believing. And at KnightsParanormalResearchSociety.com, you're going to believe. Join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11 p.m. to midnight, for the Paranormal and Beyond. Join host Michael Knight and Lindsay Knight as they investigate the unexplained and most controversial mysteries of the world. The Paranormal and Beyond, where the paranormal lives on and conspiracies exposed. The Paranormal and Beyond, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11 p.m. to midnight. Brought to you by KnightsParanormalResearchSociety.com.
Just because you've seen it in the news doesn't mean it's real.
So you're telling me you got physically attacked by a ghost?
Like, I can tell you right now, I believe in the paranormal more than I believe in our government.
There are so many mysteries out there that are still yet to be explained.
You folks have some of your facts wrong, and you just keep talking about generalities.
With all due respect, sir, you have not brought anything to the table to prove us wrong.
This is the Paranormal and Beyond, and it's your show. Call us at 731-1230. Here again, Michael Knight and Lindsay Knight.
Welcome back to another brand new and crypto edition of the Paranormal Beyond. But first, be sure to check us out at KnightsParanormalResearchSociety.com, where you can link up to all the past shows by simply clicking on that archive link above. That's KnightsParanormalResearchSociety.com. Ever want to be an actor? Well, here's your chance, because by logging on to HollywoodBoundActingAcademy.com, You will get the best in acting skills by just logging on to HollywoodBoundActingAcademy.com. Special shout out to all those listening worldwide through the KLAV1230am.com website and all those driving around in the Vegas Valley listening to us through your stereos. I'm your host, Michael Knight. Joining me alongside is Lindsay Knight and Jessica Johns of Wartime Paranormal, as well as David Gleason of the EOG Sports Hour, which you can hear here from 10 to 11 Monday through Friday. How are you all doing?
I'm doing great.
How are you, Jessica?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. Was cooking and cleaning all day, getting ready for tomorrow.
What is tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow's my Thanksgiving.
Not Thanksgiving.
It's my Thanksgiving.
See, you're the early bird, so you get the worm.
Well,
Hopefully
I got to
you're not
work on
cooking
Thursday.
Where's Rimshot?
No rim shot to that. He's not ready for that one. Lindsay, how are you doing?
I've been better, but thank you for asking.
Oh, great. All right, we got a great show because Cliff Barackman
No sell her illness.
is
man.
standing
That was harsh.
by. But first, let's get into today's news.
Topping the news for the Paranormal and Beyond this Monday, November 25th, bringing you up-to-the-minute news on all the strange and bizarre happenings around the globe. The LeBeau Plantation House in St. Bernard Parish, Louisiana, was long considered haunted. Now it's considered toast, having allegedly been burned to the ground by stone ghost hunters. Authorities say a blaze that destroyed a historic Louisiana plantation was deliberately set by 7 ghost hunters who became frustrated at finding no ghosts inside the house. The LeBeau Plantation, once the largest plantation south of New Orleans, and one of the only 2 plantations on Arabi to make it to the 21st century, burned to the ground in the early Friday morning fire. The 7 men entered the vacant house through a hole in the surrounding fence, hoping to find some ghosts. After failing to find any ghosts, the men, who were allegedly drunk and high on pot, reportedly began building a bonfire at the instruction of ringleader Dustin Davenport. The landmark lit up and burned for hours. They were each charged with arson, simple burglary, and criminal damage over $50,000. Reporting the news for the Paranormal and Beyond, this is Lindsay Knight.
Sad.
I don't think you qualify as a
so
ringleader with that motley. I've seen the pictures, and ringleader implies some sort of intelligence, some sort of leadership.
Well, you know, there was 7 of them from 17 years old to 31 years old, and the 31-year-old, the oldest of the bunch, is the one who decided, let's set this whole place ablaze.
What's sad is, like I said, you know, this is our future generation.
Oh, yeah.
Bunch of pot smokers.
When I was in high school, we referred to these type of people as stoners. And they would go to abandoned houses. Hey,
These
man,
guys should get stoned. Really, we'll throw
I think
rocks
the
at them.
paranormal thing may have been a cover story. That's what it sounds like.
I know, but
to
it's
me.
just sad for the paranormal people out there who has a passion in this. And
it
you know what?
besmirches the good name of decent paranormal
Well, it's going to
investigators.
take another long road to gain the respects of everybody when it comes to paranormal.
Plus, being able to go into those locations now, they're going to be very shy about not letting us in. Very strict.
You know, money is no object when it comes to history. You cannot buy history back again. All right, let's get into our main topic because our special guest, Cliff Berman, has been a dedicated Sasquatch field researcher for over the past 2 decades. Known throughout the Sasquatch scientific community for his extended expeditions, he has been known to spend over 200 days a year in the field. Over the years, he has managed to gather data supporting the hypothesis that Sasquatches are an undiscovered species of the great ape that walks bipedally and lives in the North America region. Although finding and documenting data is a goal of Cliff's research, it is not the primary goal, as Cliff considers the process of Bigfooting fun. Cliff has appeared in various media outlets over the years in regards to his Bigfoot experience. He has written extensively on the subject, with his work being featured not only on his own blog, but on other websites as well. He has also been featured in student reports, newspaper articles, video documentaries, and so forth. In 2007, Cliff was contacted to be on the History Channel's Monsterquest. The episode, entitled Legend of the Hairy Beast, featured Cliff and fellow Bigfoot researcher James Bobo Fay investigating Bigfoot sightings reports on the Kla-math River in Northern California, being the first whites to ever invited to do a Bigfoot research on the Yurok Indian Reservation. Cliff and Bobo interviewed Native American elders about their experience with Sasquatches. They hired Indian river guides and made base camp in a cabin with no access other than by river. They also utilized advanced night vision technology to try to film Sasquatches at night from a river jet boat. Being well respected in the Bigfoot community and beyond, Cliff is often called upon for comments about Bigfoot evidence and research. He was a featured expert In the news items broadcast to the Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington media markets in regards to the infamous Georgia Bigfoot hoax in 2008, where he clearly stated that it was a falsification. To this day, Cliff is currently one of the lead investigators on the Animal Planet's new series, Finding Bigfoot, and once again teaming up with colleague James Bobo Fay, Matt Moneymaker, and Renee Holland, where Cliff is traveling the country investigating Bigfoot evidence. His expert opinion, level-headed approach, and analytical mind is essential to the team when numbers needed to be extracted for sake of data analysis or when a footprint needs to be permanently recorded. He is there to offer his unique skills. The Paranormal and Beyond would like to welcome to the program Cliff Barackman. How you doing, Cliff?
I'm doing great tonight. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh man, it's great to have you on the show. We over here we talk about conspiracies and paranormal, but Bigfoot. This is the first time in 4 years we even talked about anything close to cryptozoology. So how did you get involved with the whole Bigfoot thing?
Well, I've always been kind of weird, I guess, is the bottom line, and I'm still a pretty eccentric guy. But I think looking back into my childhood, I just loved monsters, as I think most little boys do. And I was born in 1970, and I grew up in the 1970s watching things like In Search Of, or Legend of Boggy Creek, and like the 1970s was like the heyday of campy Bigfoot things, along with Godzilla and other sort of monster things that I was always interested in. So I was practically raised with the whole Bigfoot thing in my face because that's what I was so interested in. And of course, it being quirky and unusual and eccentric kind of drew me to it as well because that's the kind of guy I am. But it wasn't until I was in college that I started taking it really, really, really seriously as a biological reality, because it was then that I had a few-hour break between classes, and I found myself in the library very often kind of just randomly picking books off of the shelf and subjects that I was interested in. And one day I ran across the book in the anthropology section written by a number of academics who have collected a number of journal articles that they've written on the subject of Sasquatches. Most of them were cultural anthropologists, but there were also some physical anthropologists as well. And their research and their scientifically reviewed papers is what really awakened me to the idea that maybe Bigfoots are more than just quirky myths in American culture. Maybe there's a biological reality behind it. So I started doing field research at that time, back in 1994, out in the field every single year since, for as much time as I can possibly spare. And now I'm just hopelessly drowning in the subject.
And let's give a shout out to my favorite campy Bigfoot, Andre the Giant as Bigfoot on the $6 Million Man.
Absolutely,
nice.
Absolutely. I did two of those. The name of that was The $6 Million Man versus Bigfoot and the Aliens, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think that was correct. I'm a pro wrestling geek, and that's I'm just here to add color commentary.
Very good. Well, Andre the Giant is actually my favorite professional wrestler for that one reason alone.
Well, yeah, that's good.
There's other reasons, of course, but that would do it.
Yeah, that's a very good reason to have him as your favorite.
I'm sorry. Recently, I think it was about less than a month ago that it actually came out that they have evidence that it could be a descendant of a bear. Did you hear about that?
That's not exactly the whole story, but I know what you're speaking of. Dr. Brian Sykes from Oxford University was featured on a BBC documentary, a series of 3, and the first one they went to Nepal and investigated a couple of purported Yeti pelts or whatever they have over there. And of course, the media, being relatively uninformed, took it and said, oh, the Yeti's a bear, that's what it is, without really looking very deeply into it. There's a couple important things to bring forth about the Sykes Nepal episode. And number one is that, there's a species of undiscovered bear. That's cool. That's cryptozoology right there. That's really, really neat. But besides that, the locals, and this is very, very well documented in like Lauren Coleman's books or even Messner's book, the renowned mountain climber, that the locals over in Nepal and Tibet and where Yetis live acknowledge that there are 3 species of Yetis, and one is widely accepted to be a bear. Another one is a Bigfoot-like creature between 7 and 9 feet tall, and another one is another bipedal ape sort of thing that runs about 4 to 5 feet tall. So yeah, that there's a bear over there is no surprise to anybody who is well versed in the literature. In fact, that's kind of what would be expected. And frankly, Brian Sykes only analyzed the mitochondrial DNA from 2 specimens that were both thought to be bear to begin with. So
now,
it's no surprise.
In Nepal or in Tibet, isn't it also commonly known that, you know, the local people there say that the Yeti is supposedly the guardians of Shangri-La?
Well, wherever you go throughout the world, and these guys are there, like the Bigfoots are around, or whatever their version of Bigfoots is, there's generally some sort of folklore or mythology or storytelling involved in it. Some Native Americans in North America, some tribes, if you want to call them that, say that they're guardians of the forest, you know, or they'll look out for you, or sometimes they're the boogeyman in the forest, and you don't go whistling in the woods because, you know, the Zodiac will carry you away. So wherever you go, whether it's Nepal or North America or wherever, you find that same pattern.
No, Cliff, I got to ask you this. Before you started out in this and your research into the Yeti, Bigfoot, and all that, as your, let's say, time progressed in your investigations, what was your first thought in this? Like, first it was mythological. Now I would bet you have a better understanding on what this creature really is.
Well, I have a model, I guess one could say. I don't know what Bigfoots are, honestly, you know, and that's kind of why I'm in it, because I love to learn about things. I was a professional educator. I taught, you know, 4th, 5th, 6th grade for the last 14 years before I got the TV gig. So I just like to learn, basically. So I don't really know what Bigfoots are, although I do have a model of what I think they are, which is largely speculative, of course, but a lot of it is based on data. Bigfoots are, in my opinion, very simply, Bigfoots are a highly intelligent species of bipedal ape that lives at least in North America and actually in other places of the world. Now, whether those other ones in China or wherever are the same species exactly, I don't know. I don't really know. We won't know that for a long time. But they seem to be just like Bigfoots. But generally, they're apish sort of things that are highly intelligent, almost as smart as us. And they have a lot of little, I don't know, they're nocturnal, they go after deer, they're omnivorous, you know, there are a lot of things.
I'd like to think of Bigfoot as Harry from Harry and the Hendersons. That's how I would like to think of him as.
A very benevolent Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you know, and that's honestly kind of more true than a lot of other depictions of Sasquatches, where there are these terrifying beasts and monsters and, you know, killing people, and as they're often portrayed in horror movies. And of course, Harry and the Hendersons went too far that direction. They're not really like that, but they are.
Not something you'd want to have like living with a family.
No, like I would think that's, you know, when I think of like Bigfoot, that's what I think Bigfoot would look like.
Okay, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that was particularly thin, but there are thin Bigfoots reported. Yeah, absolutely. It is a lot like what they would look like.
Cliff, do you have any familiar? I went to college in South Carolina, and my family lives there. Pretty much for the last 30 years, every few years, there's a sighting of what they call the lizard man in the swamps of South Carolina. Do you have any familiarity with Mr. Lizard?
Only a little bit. I've heard, being a Bigfoot guy, I catch wind of a lot of other sort of cryptozoological critters. But most recently, a good friend of mine named Lyle Blackburn, he's the preeminent expert on the legend of Boggy Creek. He just published an excellent book last year called The Beast of Boggy Creek, detailing the Bigfoot sightings and whatnot in the Boggy Creek area and what's been happening before that or since then, as well as, well, all the way back in the 1800s. But he has a brand new book out about lizard men. It's just been published, I think, in the last couple of weeks. And what he's been discovering is, by and large, most of the people who report seeing lizard men, I guess I should say, according to Lyle, he thinks they're probably seeing Bigfoots.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the description is generally bad. You know, maybe the prints have 3 toes or something, which is probably like a misidentified alligator print, honestly. But nonetheless, he thinks that a lot of these people are actually seeing Bigfoots and just misidentifying them.
That would make sense. I mean, there's like this one area, one very swampy area, and I'm just speculating. I mean, his fur could be matted down or whatever, but that would make sense.
Well, especially they have
absolutely.
nothing to compare it to. So,
Right.
The mind will just go crazy. Cliff, throughout your research, speaking about the lizard man, is there a lot of stories when you talk to, like, let's say tribes that other mythological creatures come into play, not only being Bigfoot?
Well, amongst Native Americans, you're asking?
Yes.
More, yeah, I suppose, but fewer than you would think. Certainly no more than what you would hear about in the dominant European culture that surrounds the Native Americans. They have a few other critters around, like the thunderbird, giant eagle sort of thing, and of course some people report seeing those. But when you look at it, most of the stories and myths, if you want to call them that, amongst Native Americans really have to do with real animals, which I think is really interesting and compelling. And certainly not all. They have their spiritual beings as well. But by and large, the cast of characters in their stories are things like coyote and raven and other real animals. And just it turns out that hairy man, as they're often called in Native American tongue, hairy men are just thrown in there with the rest of the normal animals. Like, no big deal.
People have been searching for Sasquatch, Bigfoot, skunk ape for years and years and years. Why is it you think that it has not been found? Or is it because, like you say, they are as smart as almost humans, so they're able to...
I say they're like the hide-and-seek champions.
I was just going to say that, the hide-and-seek champions. It's like...
So that got to show that they are very smart. They know not to be caught.
Well, absolutely. There's so many different factors that go into why they have not been academically accepted yet. And of course, when people like saying proving and stuff like that, you know what? Or discovered, that's another one that kind of irks me, because it reminds me so much of North America. Columbus discovered North America. That's nonsense. Tens of thousands of people were already living here. They already knew about it. And that's the same situation we have with Sasquatches. There are literally tens of thousands of people throughout the country and continent that have seen these things up close and personal and know they're real. So they don't need discovering. They're already there. What the word I choose to use is academic acceptance, because really it's the scientists who are lagging behind on this one. And that's part of the problem and part of the answer to your question. Why haven't they been discovered? Well, first of all, their behaviors, but no one's really looking is kind of the oversimplified version of it. Bigfoots weren't even on the American radar until 1958. And between 1958 and 1971, no scientists were really all that interested in it. A couple of them paid a little bit of attention, Ivan Sanderson, Bernard Wevelmans, for example. But nobody was really putting a concerted effort in. John Green, who was a reporter in British Columbia, he was the first guy to start collecting reports, and he collected, I think, 1,600 of them by about 1975, if I remember right. And since then, a few academics have taken notice. John Napier, who was the head primatologist, I believe, for the Smithsonian Institute, he wrote a book on the subject. Dr. Grover Krantz, he became interested after seeing footprints and realized that, holy crap, these things are real. Dr. Jeff Meldrum from Idaho State University is now involved. But it's kind of taboo for academics like these gentlemen to look into the subject. So no one's really doing it. There's really not much, if any, university funding for this sort of thing. So it's kind of fallen to people like me. I have a degree in jazz guitar. I'm not specialized to be a Bigfooter. I happen to love the subject, and I'm a fairly intelligent guy who has a little science in his background because I was a teacher. But you know what? It's people like me who are actually out there doing it now. There's no funding except for what we make at our jobs. Mm-hmm. There's no academic backing. Well, there's very, very little academic backing, I should say. I have a few academic friends and PhD students, friends, and Dr. Meldrum's a friend of mine, et cetera. But by and large, the proper people aren't looking. And that's a big portion of why these things are still mythological, I guess.
Who's your favorite jazz guitarist?
Ron Eshte. He lives in Southern California. Plays 7-string. He plays 7-string jazz guitar with a 6-string bassist. When they play, it sounds like there's 4 or 5 guys playing. It's awesome.
Wow! Actually, we've got a local Bigfoot enthusiast named Kevin Stott who sent an email. He's a big fan of your show. He wanted to know, it's kind of a production-oriented question, why not set up camp on finding Bigfoot for a week or more to increase the chances of sighting Bigfoot, especially the hot spot?
Well, the real reason that's not done very often is because we have about like this current season that I'm in the middle of filming, I happen to be home on break. Today was my first day home on break, basically. I have about a week and a half off for the holiday here. The episodes that we are filming, and I think we have about 12 or 14 of them in this run, they're planned many, many, many months in advance for the most part.
Right.
And there's a lot of bouncing around. There's a couple spots that we want to look at. And it takes a tremendous amount of money to make one television episode. I don't know exactly how much because that's not really my thing, but it's somewhere between like $250,000 and $500,000 or something for each episode. So I hear, and I don't know anything at all. I have no knowledge. I'm guessing at that. But still, that's a ton of money.
Right.
And the production company's given that money by Animal Planet or whoever to make a show that Animal Planet likes. So the production company can be a little nervous to go try things that are new and stuff. And they want things planned meticulously to make sure that money is being spent well, months in advance. Now, having said that, I just got done filming an episode on the East Coast there where we did just what the guy is suggesting. Because that is a really more effective way to Bigfoot, in my opinion, staying put for about a week and a half or so. We just did film one where we had a base camp and we worked at it there. So this season that we're just now started a few weeks ago, we'll have a lot of new surprises and twists in it
cool.
To look forward to.
Can we talk about the Georgia Bigfoot hoax? Because I'm actually from Georgia and I remember that. Okay, I remember being so excited that there was a Bigfoot sighting in Georgia, and I was like, yeah. And it was like a roller coaster of emotion, just so excited about it. And then finding out soon thereafter, it was just all a big hoax. It was just disappointment. What was, when you first heard about it, like what was your initial reaction to it? Like when you first heard there was a Bigfoot sighting in Georgia before it was like discovered as a hoax?
Oh, there are sightings in Georgia all the time. Georgia has a very healthy Bigfoot population, no question about it. In fact, if I remember right, Georgia has the third highest number of forested acres of any state.
Right.
Well, I mean, that wouldn't surprise me.
Second only after Alaska and Oregon.
Like North Georgia,
Yeah,
North Georgia is just
lousy with forests. What site has the most Bigfoot sightings?
I think it's Washington.
Yeah, that would make
out of the 50
sense.
states.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I think it's Washington, then California is next. But those two states, Washington has just a lot of Bigfoots in it.
Right.
There's a lot of forested land there. And actually Western Washington in particular kind of has a lot of people. And that's why California, I think, is number 2 as well. Not because California is huge, has a lot of a variety of habitat and stuff, but there's just so many people there. Because to have a Bigfoot sighting report, you need a Bigfoot and a person.
Yeah, that's true.
That famous film or famous picture of the Patterson Gimlin that was taken way back that everybody knows for Sasquatch looking like. Has there been anything taken after that photo or that film since then? I mean, to like say, yes, there is a Bigfoot, or is that like the only major evidence?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. There's photographs and films coming out kind of a lot. Not all of them are real, of course. There's a lot of attention seekers and whatnot that have some sort of weird psychosis, I guess, that they want to fake Bigfoot evidence. And people think I'm ridiculous because I look into Bigfoot, and I just look at these people who are faking it thinking, how bad are they, If I'm ridiculous, what does that make them? But anyway, there's a lot of interesting stuff. And in fact, there's one from Georgia, oddly enough, where a police officer was out with his dash cam, because a lot of those, the cop cars have dash cams in them now. And they got a 7-foot something run across the road in front of them in the middle of the night.
I think I heard that one.
I don't remember.
Yeah, well, that was actually in our Georgia episode, first season. And a woman named Mary was doing a ride-along that night, coincidentally. I spoke in depth to Mary. And Mary says that it had hair, it was huge, it was fast, it looked very strange. She got a very good look at it, much better than the dash cam video shows. Her description is very, very compelling. Plus, you have that dash cam video. The thing crossed the road in, I think, 3 steps where we tried to do it. I think Bobo, or I had to do it. I think it took 5 steps to get across the road. There's a lot of interesting, really compelling pieces of footage out there, including photographs. Some very good photographs that have yet to be published, too, I might add.
And it would seem with the advent of so much video and camera technology that it would facilitate more sightings. People would slap a GoPro in their head and head out in the woods.
That's absolutely true. As technology has fallen more and more into layman's hands, more and more Bigfoot videos have surfaced. Absolutely.
And there's also a lot of stuff being doctored, and that kind of messes up the whole research as well.
On the flip side, it's easy to doctor video.
Right.
I mean, I could do it at home on my computer. What someone else would have had to do a lot of work.
It's
to
like
do
with ghost
20 years
pictures
ago.
and stuff. When people are posting their ghost pictures,
Right.
you could totally Photoshop that.
Mm-hmm.
I got to ask you this, Cliff. During your research, how are people, when you investigate and do interviews on these eyewitnesses, are they more amazed or more afraid on Bigfoot?
Well, you know what? For the most part, the reactions run a gamut. I should start out by saying some people are scared out of their mind that they saw a Bigfoot. They've stopped hunting for decades or perhaps the rest of their life. They won't go to that patch of woods again where they saw it. It really has affected a lot of people. I know a police officer that more or less lost his job because he saw one, and when his commanding officer said, "No, you didn't," he said, "Yes, I did," and stuck to his story, and that was the beginning of the end for him being a police officer. But other people feel that it was the most blessed event of their life, and they feel so lucky. But more than anything else, when I'm on the road listening to Bigfoot witnesses, it's almost like I'm a shrink. Like these people just needed to talk to somebody to get it off their chest. And once they're done telling someone like me who believes them their story, they just feel like a weight has been lifted off their head, and so it's like I'm a Bigfoot therapist or something like that.
Cliff, we got a caller for you. Rex, welcome to the program.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Going
Hello.
great.
Hi, Rex.
Hello. Hey, Cliff. I haven't ever actually officially met you, but I've seen you on television.
I'm looking right back at you.
So, yeah, I had a question. Of course, being on television, there's a lot of scrutiny from other enthusiasts into the paranormal or, Bigfoot hunters and whatnot. How do you deal with a lot of that scrutiny you might get from the other groups?
The scrutiny doesn't bother me so much because I try to let my work stand for itself. I put out a lot of stuff. I do a lot of analyses, and I try to let my work speak for me. And of course, sometimes something I produce turns out to be incorrect, or I was wrong about something, which is fine. I don't mind being wrong, because without being wrong, you don't really learn anything. And I'm interested in learning about the subject. That's my goal. I'm not trying to prove these things are real. I'm just trying to learn. What I don't like are haters and trolls and stuff like that necessarily. Now, by and large, I have a Facebook and all that Twitter nonsense that, TV folks have. And by and large, I've kind of kept the negative folks away, which is really nice. I have a really nice core group of people that participate in discussions and whatever else. But I don't, like those negative folks, I just kind of discourage them, and I either kill them with kindness or totally ignore it for the most part.
And really, no matter what line of work you're in, you have to do that. You just can't. You just have to get rid of all the negative people and trolls. It's just there's a waste of time.
They astound me in a lot of ways. Like there's some people in the world that I just kind of don't like, and there's certainly people out there on the media that I think are morons. But I don't go out of my way to seek them out to let them know that.
Yeah,
and
it's
I think
amazing.
That's weird.
It is weird,
and I think that's really weird that people go out of their way to share the fact that, that they hate me, which is fine. We all have our days, but it's just kind of weird to me.
It is. It's weird.
Well, your haters are your biggest fans, so remember that. Always put it on the good line. Think outside the box.
Thank you, Michael.
It astounds me that if they hate the show so much, why do they watch it?
Yeah, why are they so obsessed with it? Yeah.
Jealousy.
I don't know. It's kind of funny, but whatever.
It's bizarre.
Rex, thank you for your call. Cliff, I got to ask you this. What is your most profound, since your investigation, evidence you have uncovered?
The most profound thing that I've personally been involved with extensively is something called the London Trackway. London, Oregon is a small unincorporated town by Eugene, Oregon, down by Cottage Grove, actually. And I was called in on some footprints, a line of footprints, actually, a year or two, in February 2012. There were 122 footprints in the mud of this lake bed. And they were 14 and a half inches long, and they're maybe Bigfoot or hoaxes, is the bottom line. I went down there, and I cast 72 of those footprints. Got some other friends on it the next day. They cast another 20-something. So the London footprints, whether they're real or not, and right now I'm inclined to think that they're real. So I could be wrong about that, but I'm still working with them. That's the most profound thing I've been involved in, just because 64 of those 72 that I cast were consecutive, and that's never been done before. There's never been any other Bigfoot event that has been so thoroughly documented, and I'm still dealing with it on an almost daily basis.
Wow. I don't know. I mean, hunting Bigfoot, do you ever feel like your life's in jeopardy? I mean, I've watched your show, and you're like out there by yourselves. You know, they leave you there. Where's Cliff? He's over there somewhere, you know.
It's like man versus wild.
Yeah. You ever hear like the calls of the Yeti or Bigfoot, and it never spooks you out?
Well, sometimes I do. When I'm not on the show, I do like to go Bigfooting alone. Because TV is my job basically, but I'm a Bigfooter. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'll be doing this the rest of my life. I love being in the woods at night alone. I just love it. It's the smells, the sights, the sounds. It's just beautiful. But when they show up, which is rare. Most of the time, Bigfoots aren't really there, because they're rare. They're not everywhere basically. But when I am out there and I get knockbacks or callbacks. And maybe a repeated knock where I can tell they're getting closer. Well, that gets a little sketchy sometimes, but I keep remembering it. That's why I'm out there. Mm-hmm. I guess maybe I'm an adrenaline junkie. I'm really not at all, actually, but I just think it's so cool that, ape men are real and they're right there.
I got to give it up to you because not everybody can do this. I mean, and somebody has to do it. And the fact that you take the initiative to go out there and actually look for something that it has always been there, and I'm not going to say discovered, but, that doesn't want to have its, self shown. But, I mean, the fact that you can go out there and, find evidence and bring it to the table and let people be aware that there is more to, what we think is in front of us.
I'm trying to present a level-headed layman sort of version of it, a citizen scientist, just like I would do to 5th grade or 6th grade students. I try to present my love for the subject and present the information in not necessarily a simplified or watered down way, but in an accessible sort of way. I think is a good way to say it. Even if you don't think Bigfoots are real, if you looked at the data, the actual evidence, and saw enough of it, it would be very hard to deny that nothing is going on at all. Even the most diehard skeptic would say, well, there's something going on. Maybe it's just a psychological phenomenon. Maybe all these people are hallucinating. Maybe all these people are lying. Maybe this or maybe that. But something's going on. And the simplest solution to that is that Bigfoots are a real species of undiscovered ape in North America.
Absolutely. Have you heard any other, let's say, explanations on what Bigfoot can be?
Well, everybody's got other explanations, I guess, because, again, I have my model based on my own experiences. Some people think that they're people, I personally, there's a big debate in the Bigfoot community, are Bigfoots apes or humans? And to me, that's a flawed question. It should be, that's like saying, is that a coyote or a canine? Well, it's the same thing, right? And apes are humans, well, that's not true. Humans are apes, I should say. But apes are very human-like. And I think that's where we run into things. But some people say that they're people. Some people say that they're apes. Some people say that they're other things that I totally disagree with, shape-shifting, UFO-riding, whatevers. I don't think that's a reasonable explanation at this point because it breaks the pattern of everything else they do, in my opinion. But I don't bother so much with what other people think they are because I'm still trying to figure that out for myself.
Absolutely. The same thing with the paranormal. We don't understand it, but yet, we could try to get our grasp on it to explain it, but, it's kind of hard when we just can't capture, a Yeti in a box and be like, look, people.
Like is what he's saying. It's not academically accepted.
Exactly, and it's hard, but, like Lindsay said, I commend you going out there, especially alone. You must be packing a 12-gauge or something, because...
No. I go unarmed, actually.
Okay, now let's get into the whole Bigfoot. Are these underground humanoid-type beings who only come out to eat and actually have their own population thing going on underground?
I don't think so. Some people think that they live in extended cave networks and lava tubes and all that sort of stuff, but I don't think that's necessarily the case at all. I think that they live their life much like a bear does, honestly. Kind of imagine a cross between like the foraging habits of a bear, the stealth and perceptions, I guess, of a cat, like a mountain lion, with the intelligence of a person. I think that if you kind of mishmash all those together in certain amounts, like a recipe, I think that's real close to what Bigfoots are and do.
You know,
I think that they use caves perhaps sometimes to get out of inclement weather or wind, but there's no food underground. You know, why would they be there for very long? They don't have, and there's absolutely no light whatsoever, so they'd have a really hard time seeing down in there. They'd eventually go blind like cavefish or those snakes or the bat, you know, that sort of thing does.
Well, that'd be nocturnal, you know.
Well, they are nocturnal to begin with. They're definitely more active at night, Sasquatches, definitely.
Do you think they're at night just because it's the best time to go out to be hidden?
Maybe, although I can't be sure of that because of the very few pieces of footage that I think are real taken at night, usually on thermal imagers or something like that. The Bigfoots are hiding from us, even at night. It's probably easier for them to hide, but I'm not so sure that the Bigfoots have figured out that we don't see well in the dark, because they clearly see well in the dark. They don't trip around very often, even though there's no light whatsoever. And since we look like them and stuff, I imagine they're looking at us thinking that we have the same abilities they do.
So we're more like the predators.
But I don't know that.
We're more considered as the predators than they are. It's just that we don't understand it. So you have people freaking out when they see one, you know.
Yeah, I suppose.
Have you ever interviewed anybody who has been attacked by one?
I've never spoken to somebody who's actually been physically hurt, although I've spoken to several people who thought they were going to be. They said, it attacked me. I said, well, did it touch you? No, but it attacked me. It ran at me and like it broke trees. And I said, well, it didn't really attack you then, because if it guarantee you that if it attacked you, you wouldn't be standing here telling me about it.
Probably scared it more than
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a bluff charge, just like a lot of bears do, and Bigfoots. They want you out of an area. They're going to try to scare the hell out of you until you leave. And if you don't leave, they'll probably leave.
Exactly. Do they have any odor to them, like they're portrayed to?
About 10% of sightings have a smell associated with them. And to give you more context, well, the smell is not very good. I've smelled it twice now, out of my 20 years of research.
Some of us think patchouli is not very good.
No, it's not.
No, it's not patchouli. It's more like dog crap parmesan.
Oh, well, then.
God, grody.
Grody, there's a word I hadn't heard in a long time.
Yeah, seriously.
So, you know, a lot of sightings, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, and say come out of North America, but you said previously that they are worldwide. But are they more indigenous to North America because of weather?
Well, that's kind of like asking, are people more indigenous to North America? Well, that's not really the case. You know,
they are.
The Native Americans who live in North America are ancestrally related, genetically related to Asians. So they probably came over the land bridge. There's a fair amount of evidence for that. Natives believe they were here in North America forever, but genetically speaking, they're related to the Asians. So there's probably some sort of mass migration at one point, which also brought other large mammals over here, like during the ice ages, like Sasquatches. They very likely came over with the Native Americans because they were going after the same food sources, mostly the ungulate herds. Having said that, there's a population of animals in China called the Yeren, which, as far as I can tell, are exactly like Sasquatches. And in fact, next Sunday's episode of Finding Bigfoot, we're going to China to look for Yerens. Now, there's also large Bigfoot sort of critters found everywhere from Australia to Vietnam, some parts of Indonesia, China, Russia, all the way to Eastern Europe. And in fact, even in Western Europe, if you look back to the Renaissance era art, you'll find depictions of large, hairy men, basically totally covered in hair from head to toe. Maybe they had Bigfoots there at one point. Don't really know, but there might be some sort of historical record of it.
As far as food source goes, I mean, like, have you found any carcasses that, I mean, who knows what could have eaten it, you know, like a sheep or whatever you find in the woods. But, I mean, is there anything that you can possibly tell us maybe what they eat?
Well, they've been seen eating a number of things. I have never run across foraging that I could positively identify as Sasquatch, because much of a Sasquatch's passing could easily be confused with bear. But eyewitnesses have reported seeing Sasquatches eating deer, fish, ducks, fern stalks, raiding apple and pear trees off of farms, carrying away vegetables from gardens. Twice, I think in 2002, if I remember right, a quote-unquote bear ran into camp at Bluff Creek at a place called Fish Lake, great Bigfoot spot. A bear ran into camp, picked up a cooler in its front paws, and ran away on two legs.
It must have been a Coors.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
In there.
I thought that was a Yogi Bear cartoon.
Right.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, that bear clearly wasn't one, you know,
Right.
but I don't know what he was going after, so, you know.
So, I mean, in your research, do you think that the abominable snowman, or is that what they call it, the Yeti, abominable snowman, same thing, or is it different from the Sasquatch?
Well, I don't know, I guess is the honest answer there. But you know what? Keep in mind that America has black bears, you know, Ursa americana.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But the Himalayas have a black bear too, but it's a different species. So we don't know how differentiated the Yetis would be from North American Bigfoots. Are they different enough that they present a different species, or do we have a worldwide distribution of the same thing? But you know, like sun bears in Asia are so much like black bears. They're just bears, right? So, but we don't know how different Yetis are from North American Bigfoot.
I guess it also just depends. Like you have the polar bears who adapt to that climate,
makes
so the
sense.
same thing, yeah, obviously.
And they do stand on their hind legs as well, so you know you can misdiagnose them for being a Bigfoot.
That's fair. That's a lot more difficult though, just because bears usually have, like when they're standing up, that's usually because they're alert, which means their ears are perked up pretty high. So their ears are very prominent. They have a long, prominent snouts and no shoulders because they're quadrupeds. They're not made that way. Whereas Sasquatches have no visible ears, very, very flat faces, no neck whatsoever, and wide shoulders. So it's a lot more difficult, especially when they start walking, because bears, they could stagger around on two legs, but they don't really do so very often. There is an exception of a bear that I think lost its right or left front leg and learned to walk around bipedally. And there's a couple in the wild, which is phenomenal. But even that bear doesn't locomote in the same way that Sasquatches do with their widely swinging arms and such. It's a lot harder to misdiagnose a bear if you see it clearly for a Sasquatch, or vice versa.
You remember that, I know that they air, I'm not sure where they aired this, but remember that where somebody had taken, I guess there was somewhere in Asia, somebody had the skull or the fingers of a...
Yeah, there's the hand.
It was the hand. Was that a hoax or was that real that you know of?
A little bit of both. The deal on that one in Pangboche, which we actually, I was just actually there just like a couple months ago actually and saw those things. Both the hand and the scalp were stolen by tourists in 1993, and they're gone now. Unfortunately, no one knows what happened to them. But Weta Workshops, who are the special effect guys that did the Lord of the Rings series, they actually made replicas for the monastery because it was a source of income for them. You know, trekkers and hikers would come by and give them $1 to see it or sort of thing, and a dollar goes a long ways in Nepal. But the hand was around for about 300 or 400 years, if I remember right. I have that written down in my notes somewhere. But it's 300 or 400 years old, and a piece of that hand was eventually genetically tested for DNA, and that hand ended up being human, which is a grisly thing. Now the scalp, the hair from that scalp was tested back in the 70s, I believe, 60s, 70s. Maybe even earlier, thinking about it, and it turned out to be from a goat. But what happened is that the monasteries, and you wouldn't expect this from Buddhist monks, but they're very, very not only protective but competitive with each other. And so there are a couple monasteries up there supposedly have Yeti relics of various sorts. So some of the other monasteries were making their own to compete and like bring in like hikers and stuff, which is a little shady, I thought, for Buddhism, you know.
Wow.
But so that's the story on those two relics.
You've seen those relics? Okay.
I have. I've seen the replicas. The originals, again, were stolen and now are lost.
I mean, it is a human hand anyways in a goat's head, so...
a sort of cranium made from a goat skin is what it is.
Cliff, do you find during these interviews people making up stuff as well?
Sometimes.
Just to get your attention?
Yeah. Some people just want to be on TV or something, or some people are just weird. You know, they want attention in that way. But you would, in my opinion, and I don't know. I mean, it sounds like an arrogant thing to say. Maybe it is, but like I'm pretty good at those visual clues about people lying because I was a teacher for 14 years,
Right.
and a 10-year-old is no different than a 45-year-old is what I found.
Amen.
You know, they have the same needs, they speak the same way, and they have the same body language. And it's that body language that I really clue in on. I do detect some lies and fibs and stuff, and, you know, it's not quite a superpower of mine or anything, but I've got a pretty good feeling for it. And by and large, I find that most of the people that we deal with tend to be truthful. But then again, Bigfoots are real. You can see them, and many people do. And also, the just sheer amount of people in towns altogether who have the same correlation in what they've seen in eyewitness reports, that's a sign of truthfulness, I think. Yeah, I love multiple witness sightings where we have 2 or 3 guys or girls or whatever seeing the same critter and getting different perspectives because they usually zero in on a certain part of the body or their movements or something, so they all have their own story to tell, and piecing together all of their different stories is like putting together a puzzle at the end. It's really cool.
Wow. Well, this is just, cryptozoology is fascinating to me. I mean, we don't do too many shows on cryptozoology, but I mean, Bigfoot itself, I mean, God, I don't know. That's just... You won't find me out in the woods. I will not go out in the woods looking for that.
You're safe in Las Vegas.
I am safe in Las Vegas behind the mic.
Hey, David, isn't there something about Las Vegas that there is a creature out here, too, in the desert?
Yeah.
I've heard something like that.
I'm not aware of anything. The only thing I've even come up remotely with is Chupacabra.
I was just going to say that.
Mexico. Yeah, that's the only thing I've ever heard of in the desert.
In South Georgia, there was, I told you earlier, the Pigman story.
Yeah, I remember the Pigman.
The Pigman story.
Yeah,
I wanted to go hunting for that guy.
It's just fascinating. And
the Mothman, too, and the Jersey Devil are like my favorites.
When you're out there, I mean, are you just focused on Bigfoot, or are you just like, oh my God, I might see Mothman or something else come out?
Well, a few people I know actually have seen this critter out east somewhere. I forget the vernacular term for it. I can't remember what it is. It's basically some sort of wolf thing, bipedal wolf thing. And I'm not sure those are real or not, or if they're misidentifying Bigfoots or what's up with that. But a couple people I know very well and trust have seen these things, and that stuff scares the willies out of me because I'm out there. I don't want that to be real. For some reason, the 8.5-foot ape man doesn't scare me nearly as bad as that.
It's funny because when you're not looking for something, you're going to end up seeing it. So, mind you, you're looking for Bigfoot. You're not going to see that out in the woods. You're going to see something else like the Mothman, 2 red eyes.
I know.
Jersey
we
Devil.
got to change the name of the show.
Very quickly, Cliff, do you think will it take a body or a capture for the public to accept as proof that Bigfoot really does exist? The unwashed masses, if you will.
I personally think that the public can be swayed a lot more easily than academia can.
Right.
Yeah.
The public might be swayed by extended video that's repeatable, and that's my hope.
And what do you think?
I'm a compassionate guy. I don't want one to be killed, but I think that's what it's going to take for the academic.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, Cliff, we are out of time. Thank you for being on the program. Tell everybody where they can visit your website and as well as see Finding Bigfoot.
Yeah, cliffbarackman.com. You type in the words Cliff Bigfoot on Google, and I come up right away.
Yeah, you're everywhere. You are not Bigfoot, but you're easier to find. Hopefully, Bigfoot can be that easy. Well,
if you want to see a Bigfoot, you got to be a Bigfoot.
There you go.
Exactly. Yeah, be sure to visit Cliff.
I thought I saw him at Walmart the other day.
.com. Well, probably the weird people of Walmart. I won't be surprised. And continue watching Finding Bigfoot because maybe one day they might just find him. Be a mind-blowing episode. Thank you once again, Cliff. And remember to join us back here Wednesday as we have Major Mark music, Blow the Conspiracy Out the Water. That Howard Hughes did not die in Las Vegas as you all think. Join us back here Monday and tune in to EOG Sports Monday through Friday from 10 to 11. All right, everybody out there, stay safe. See you right back here Wednesday on the Paranormal Beyond. Good night, everybody.